welcome back to another episode of the Young Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Jay. Whether you're outside grilling, maybe you're mowing the lawn, maybe you're shoveling snow, maybe you're changing dirty diapers, maybe you just finally got a moment to sit back, relax, and kick it and listen to your favorite podcast. Maybe you're sitting around by the fireplace looking at the Christmas lights all around you that you put up and admiring your hard work. Or maybe you're literally sitting on the toilet. I don't know. So whatever you are, wherever you're at, thank you for listening and thank you for tuning in. I'm very excited that you're here. I have a very special guest who's all about fun conversations and interesting people. Joining me today is Jared, the host of If You Give a Dad a Podcast. That is IYGADAP for short, which I don't think is much shorter. A mouthful. Jared's show dives into real, unfiltered chats about everything and nothing at the same time, which is quite the combo. Whether you're into wrestling, anime, music, acting, or just enjoy a good conversation, which I do, his podcast has something for everyone, even me. All the things and nothing. I like the nothing side of it. So today we'll get to know the man behind the mic, explore what inspired him to create his unique platform, and delve into his journey as a father. So sit back, relax, grab a juice box, grab a snack, and let's welcome Jared to the show. Jared, welcome.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks, man. That was a cool intro too. And for the part that you said, that it's kind of just as long as say we pronounce that IGADAP. So just use
IGADAP.
IGADAP. Yeah. So
if you IGADAP, you IGADAP.
that's right.
If you don't IGADAP, you don't IGADAP. IGADAP. That's interesting. Well, I'm excited you're here. I'm excited we finally get to freaking do this.
Right.
And this is exciting. Something we've been working on for a while. But yeah, man, I like your show. You're a cool guy. Great to engage with on social media. So I'm really excited we get to have a longer conversation and get to know each other today. So, without further ado, let's kick this thing right off.
Yeah.
We're gonna kick it off with a big one. So this is kind of a big question. I like to start with big questions, and then keep the questions going after that. Keep the conversation going. So, what is a hill you're willing to die on when it comes to podcasting and or let's go with and parenting? So the two hills, one hill you're willing to die on when it comes to podcasting and one hill you're willing to die on when it comes to parenting.
Okay. That is a big one to start off right with.
You gotta start hot. You gotta start hot.
That's right.
So get your climbing boots on and start walking up these hills and
all right.
Make sure you have enough food to die.
So I guess when it comes to, I'll start with the parenting side of it and everything. The thing that for me always is, just being there for your kids. My ex-wife and I split up when my son was 3, but my son has never known me not being there. I've been there for every event, and he doesn't understand it when, other kids' parents aren't there. So just be there for your kids. Don't make excuses. Don't do that. The excuses, they're going to remember when you were there, not when you weren't, and they're not going to remember the excuses. So make sure that you're always there for your kids. And that's a hill that I'll always die on, no matter if it's, something that it might be difficult to do, because it's not always a convenient thing when it comes to being a parent and everything, but just make sure that you're always there for your kids. I know that I have 2 kids that go to 2 different schools. And so, it makes it very difficult to try to do that. But, work it out. Do the best you can when it comes to that. Don't make excuses. That's probably my biggest thing when it comes to being a parent is, that's what they remember is you being there. When it comes to podcasting, a hill that I would die on, something I've learned doing this is, I'm going to go 2 ways with this. One, okay. Your audio is the most important. The quality of your audio for me is one of the biggest things when it comes to my show. I pride myself on that. So making audio sound the best, because that's where it starts. There's a lot of video podcasts now, like yours is a video podcast. Mine is audio only. So audio is a big key to my show. The listeners aren't going to tune in if you don't have good audio quality. They're going to turn, if they can't understand what you're saying, they're going to tune out right away. So audio quality is huge. Another thing for me is people are always like, oh, I'd love to have these people on my show. Well, you don't know if you don't ask. Don't just sit there and say, well, I would love to have that and then never pursue it. If you're going to say something, pursue it. Try to make that happen.
I love that. So I'm gonna go backwards. I'm gonna go in that backwards order from where you started.
Okay.
So with the guest part of it, I think that's 100% true. You don't know who's gonna can come on the show until you ask them.
Exactly.
I've had random, and I've had like a lot this last like 3-4 weeks
Mm-hmm.
where I'm getting engagement and I'm just checking who's engaging with my stuff.
Yeah.
So like when I talk to different doctors or psychologists or different people, and I see other psychologists, you know, like and engage with the post. I'm
Right.
like, oh, that's really interesting. So I think if you look and you see who's engaging with your post because they know that person that you just talked to, because
Right.
that's probably how they found it. If you invited them to collaborate or tagged them in the post and they saw that post and
Yep.
now you can connect with them, I think that's huge. I've been able to expand to more chiropractors. I've been able to expand to just more random people. Like coming up for the people that don't know, well, you don't know, but I have a like, I don't know what she is. She's like a dog like trainer for like helping train your dog with like babies and shit like that. I don't know
Okay.
exactly how to explain it, but it's
Interesting.
just like it's like random, but it's like that's really cool because that's something I'm really curious. Cause I have dogs. I've always had dogs. I love
Yeah.
having dogs around my kids. I love having animals in the home. I think it's great for kids and their development. And so I'm like, this is a cool conversation. Or I had a cool conversation just a few days ago for a podcast that'll come out a couple weeks ago before this one will come out most likely with a chiropractor, and she specializes in like perinatal and working with neurodivergent populations. And
Okay.
so I asked her the question and we got into it a little bit, not like into it like fighting, but like into the conversation. Like, so are there links between like the chiropractic care because it helps reset and balance the nervous system and working with like a child with moderate to severe autism? Maybe they have they're severely impacted by their autism. And so I think that would make them like a level 3 if I'm not mistaken. And so she talked about, she's like, yes, there is a lot of research. I can't share the research because it's not public research. It's kind of just within the medical field, but there are a lot of links. She's like, I'm telling you, there's a lot of links between chiropractic care and lessening that impact from severe to moderate, from moderate
Really?
down to
Okay.
mild. And so
Huh.
there's a lot of really cool links going on, a lot of research that they have, a lot of stuff that they're finding within the medical world when it comes to just chiropractic care and helping balance and work the neural system with divergent populations. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, that's really, really cool. So I was just like so fascinated and so interested. And it's really cool when you get to just like have those conversations and you start to put it together. And, I talk to lawyers and all these different people. And I'm just like, I would never talk to these people if I just didn't, throw them a message.
Right.
You know, they're not
Right.
reaching out to me. I'm reaching out to them. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I think you're cool. MMA fighters, random people, farmers, shit like that. I'm just like, this is sick. This is sick. Uh, and so I think that you don't know until you ask. The next one,
Right.
audio. Like I've always tried to take like the Gary V kind of method. That's why I started. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to, and so I just started doing it, posting shit, and doing it. I'll
Right.
edit it. I'll do all the AI features on Riverside that help increase the audio, and I'm like, it sounds fine to me.
Yeah.
If someone wants to, whatever, it sounds fine to me. And so I'm like, cool, it works, it's enough. And then when it comes to parenting list, we'll wrap back to that one. And then we'll move on here. What was the parenting? Oh yeah, being present. I call that being like front row, like
Yeah.
be in the front row kind of thing. Find a way, make a way, be there kind of thing. There's
Exactly.
there's not really an excuse. You can do it. Work's not more
Mm-hmm.
important than being there for your kids. Use that time off. Say, hey, I need to take a 2-hour lunch today and go and do this thing. You don't gotta tell them where you're going. You can tell them where you're going. You can tell them go at themselves. I'm gonna go anyway, whether you approve it or not. I'm gonna go take a 2-hour lunch. That may have repercussions, but it is what it is. I feel like most employers are able to do that, and there's a possibility. But again, it kind of goes back to that point about podcasting. You don't know if you don't ask. So
Right.
you can't make these plans. You can't try to be there. You can't try to work with your employer if you know. Sorry, I'm like raspy. Uh, so yeah, you gotta keep that in mind. So yeah, I'm like dying over here.
Oh, you're good. I got my big water bottle with me too, so
Your emotional support water bottle.
exactly. I've
Yeah,
got an
one of my
even
buddies
bigger
I
one that
work
I
with.
use for work, so
Sheesh. I don't. I have like they got us these like Yeti cups last year at our Christmas party
yeah,
that are like engraved with our names,
that's cool.
and so that's when I literally just keep it at work. I like empty at the end of the day, and then I just fill it up the next day and use it all day and stuff. So
Right.
take it home once a week for its weekly washing and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, but okay. So I love those hills. Those are all great hills to die on. I think they're all super important. You got to be there for your kid. You got to,
Yeah.
however your podcast is, you got to make sure it's quality. You got to make sure it's good to you. You know, if
Right.
it's good enough to you,
Yeah.
then I think that's the biggest thing that matters. If you think it's
Right.
if you think it's good quality audio, then other people think it's quality audio. If you
Right.
think it's good enough, then it's good enough, kind of thing. And some people just don't. And there's a lot of people who listen to podcasts that just want to listen to the podcast. They just want the content and the material versus the audio. They just want to listen to the conversations, things like that, because they're like, okay, this is a good conversation. The audio, yeah, is maybe lower quality, but there's good conversations and there's really good content and material coming from it.
Right.
So for you, what inspired you to create If You Give a Dad a Podcast?
So the name itself, my wife actually came up with it. So I actually did another podcast with a friend of mine from work before I started this one. It was one of those things where we'd known each other for years and we thought we were funny and we were like, we should do a podcast together. So we did that. I think we made
classic two white dudes doing a podcast.
exactly.
This is fun. I'm messing with you. So you are. I had to. What was I gonna say? So you're divorced and remarried now. And it
Yes.
sounds like you have one child with your ex-wife. You co-parent, and then you have another child with your wife now. Correct?
So what it was is we both brought a kid into the marriage and everything. So our
Gotcha.
kids are about a year apart in age.
You're
So,
close.
it's,
So close on that one. So close. It makes sense why I thought that. Why I thought that. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everybody thinks that. I mean, for me, she's my kid too. So, there's no difference between the two of them. So, yeah.
100%. So do you guys have them both all the time? Do you both have them half the time? Kind of.
So, we have daughter full time, and then I have my son 50% of the time. So, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So does that create? I'm sure there's been ongoing conversations. I'm not sure how old your son is at this point, but does that make him feel any type of way that you're always with her versus with him? Or
so my son is about to be 13.
okay.
And so when I met my current wife, he was 5. So
okay. So
he
this
knows
has kind
this
of been
most of his life.
normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So whenever we met, I mean, at first it was difficult because, if for 2 years it was just me and him, hanging out doing our own thing. But, everything worked out really well and we meshed really well as a family.
Very cool.
He's become very close to my wife now too. They have a very awesome relationship. Same with me and my daughter, we've developed that special bond as well. So, I mean, even though it's a blended home, we're family. Tell them the difference there. And, everybody, we've got our schedule, exactly what it is, what it's going to be, so we've got it pretty nailed down, now because we've been married for 6 years now. We've been together for 7. So, we've kind of got that. We know what's going on now.
Yeah. Got to figure it out. No, that's cool. I just had to ask. I got way off track there. So
you're good, man.
But I think that's really cool. It's important to be able to blend those things. And then, so you've been, how old is, if you don't mind me, how old is your daughter?
She's 14.
14. So you've been in there for more, or about half her life, if not a little bit more than half her life at this point. Very cool.
Right. Yeah.
That's really cool. Cool. So they are super close in age.
Yes, they are.
That's cool. I bet that was a little bit easier than one being way older, one being way younger kind of thing, where they were both basically all the same stages of development.
Yeah.
They're all the same, all the things together.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it has been, I mean, both of their other parents have had other kids and stuff, and there's a big age gap in between the two. And so they tend to be really close. Sometimes I'd say even closer than they are with their other siblings because, they are so close in age, that they have a lot in common, My son will come over here and she'll be like, let's play a game together, or, vice versa. They're thick as thieves, and they try to gang up on us whenever they can. So.
Of course, naturally.
Yeah.
No, but that's good though. I think it's good that they're, so close in age that they can really rely on each other because they both experience the same kind of path,
Yeah.
To where, they were just he was with you, she was with her, and living their lives, and then met. They both went through blending and living together and seeing. I'm sure it was harder when they were younger.
It was
when you guys first got married and moved in together. She would see him go, or he would leave. He'd probably be like, why why does she get to stay? I don't
Right.
want to go,
Right.
kind of thing. Or for her, it's like, what? I don't want him to go, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I want him to stay. I'm not gonna have anyone to play with for a week.
Right. Yeah.
This sucks
It's
because you guys are lame. Just kidding.
well, I mean, even I think this weekend I heard her say that she wished he was here because she was bored. So it still happens.
Yeah, I know, but that's good though. That's
Yeah,
good. It's good for kids
definitely.
to be bored. Damn it, go and be bored. Um, kind of thing.
Sure.
It builds character, makes it
Yeah,
tough. Go drink from the
exactly.
water hose.
Go
You're
climb a
bored. Go
tree.
drink
No,
from the.
don't climb a tree.
I love climb a tree. Come
I did
on.
too, man. I used to climb them like crazy when I was a kid. Jump out onto the trampoline.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's what you tell her. If you're bored, go drink from the water hose. Go climb a tree. Jump to the trampoline. Jump to the ground. Try
yeah.
not to break anything, and stay outside. Here's a sack lunch, and um, just make
Now
her
she
rough
said
it outside.
now she likes to sit in her room and do her makeup while she talks to her friends on the phone. So she has stuff that she does in there.
Not the same. Take her
Yeah,
out, give her the water hose, spray all that makeup off
exactly.
face, and say, rough it out here for a day, and you can come back in at dinner. I do not support this message. I'm making a joke.
Yeah,
So if you give it down the podcast, it just wrap back to that since we got
yeah.
here. So it started. Your wife said the name, and so how has it evolved into what it is today? Conversations about nothing with interesting people.
Yeah, so it actually started out, I had no idea what I wanted to do, kind of going back into the whole side of my wife naming the podcast and everything.
Okay.
So, like I said, I started doing one with another friend, and it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. It was a little different. At times, it tended to get a little bit more political than I wanted it to be. And so I didn't want that. I wanted something very free and fun to talk about without bringing in stuff that's going to make somebody mad, because obviously you're going to make somebody mad if you get into that other side.
Oh
So
yeah.
I
Oh,
was
trust
talking to
me, I
her.
know now. I
Yeah,
know now. But that's why I keep the different things separate. That's why I give them each their own space.
yeah,
I have Young Dad podcast dedicated for conversations like this. I have
yeah.
Patriarchy Principles dedicated for that faith, those politics, those really hard hitting topics that I keep right there. And
Yeah,
then I keep, biracial broadcasts as like me and my dad's channel or feed to talk about things that we want to talk about being biracial, race, things like that. That's important to him, that's important to me, so we want to talk about that. But we have a dedicated space for everything. So I think it's
right,
important
right,
to dedicate those spaces to exactly what you want them to be. So
right, right. So she was like, "Well, so what do you want your show to be about?" And I was like, "I don't know. I want it to be where anything I can talk about whatever I want because I'm a nerd. I like wrestling. I like comic books. I like anime. I like all of these different things, and I wanted a
mm-hmm.
space where I could talk about that." And so she was like, "Well, what about if you give a dad a podcast, basing it off of the book If You Give a Mouse a Cookie?"
I knew it. I knew
So
it. I love those books. Love those books.
yeah. So
If you
that's
give a
how it
kid a
started. And
pancake.
my first episode was just me talking, and I think I talked about Raw and Buffy the Vampire Slayer in my first episode because it was like the 25th anniversary of both of those.
Very cool.
And March 10th, I believe, was the anniversary for both those shows. And my first episode came out on March 11th, and I had no idea. I actually tell people don't listen to my first episode because it's just ramblings of a crazy man.
So what
But
I want everyone to do that's listening to this, what I want you to do if you're listening to this, as soon as you're done, or you can pause right now, it's fine. Pause, go look up If You Give a Dad a podcast, wherever you're getting your podcast right now, and go and listen to that very first episode from, I want to say that's going to be March 11th, 2023, right?
2022.
2022. Oh, even
Yeah.
better. Even better. So go look that up. Go look at the very first one. I really wanted to troll you. I may just link it in the show notes. We'll see.
Thanks. I appreciate
Of
that.
course, man. Of course. I want people to see your growth. I want people to see how
Yeah.
you've grown into the person that we're talking to today.
All right. Well, and then I started having like friends come on the show. And then on my first episode, you hear me talk about, I just went to this independent wrestling show. It'd be cool if I could get some of them on my show. Well, just a few episodes later, I'm starting to get all these different wrestlers on my show from the independent scene
Yes.
around this area. And so for a while, about 80% of my show was wrestling, but I was able to get other people in there. You were talking about having a chiropractor. One of my best friends from high school is a human and animal chiropractor. So
Yeah. Yeah. She told me about animal chiropractors. I was like, oh.
yeah,
She's like,
yeah,
yeah, because she's like her service dog
uh-huh,
also has a chiropractor. I'm like, what?
yep,
I'm like,
yep,
I literally looked at her. I'm like, I'm like, okay, Doc, you're
Yeah,
losing me here. You're losing
yeah,
some. I was just messing with her. I'm like, you're losing some credibility here. Animal chiropractor? She's like,
yeah,
yeah, it's a real thing. I'm like, hold on, I'm gonna do a Google search. You keep talking, and I looked it up like mid show,
yeah.
and I was like, what is this? I'm like, this is so cool. She's like, yeah, my dog gets adjusted, and you know, keeps her like super healthy and keeps her just like super on point with me and things like that. I'm like, I have never, ever, ever heard about it. She's like, yeah, it's just, you think of it as the same as like humans and stuff. And
Yeah,
they have a nervous system and it's to help them
exactly.
stay like balanced and make sure all their joints and everything are in place because it's very easy for dogs to like slip their joints and be
Hmm.
in pain and for things to get out of place. And so just like a simple adjustment helps them, stay on track and all these things. I was like mind blown, mind blown. But anyways,
So, so the guy that I
best
had on
thing,
my
yeah.
show, he actually not only he started out, he did dogs and like cats, and then he moved on. He did horses. Now in OK at the OKC Zoo, he's the one who adjusts like the bears and the tigers and all that. He's went to Africa and adjusted a lion, and he's adjusted like a giraffe and stuff too. And it's
What
it's crazy
the?
all the stuff that he's done now. But yeah, I started having people
What?
like that on the show too.
I want to talk to that guy. That's crazy. That's wild. I just want to hear those stories.
Oh
Adjusting a
yeah.
freaking bear,
Yeah, he has
like,
pictures of it on his Instagram.
oh my
Where he's,
god.
I'll send.
And I'm just like, fuck. Did you know? So I'm sure you've been on the Tickety Talk. You've seen AJ and Big Justice, right?
Yes.
We bring the boom, the double chocolate chip chunk cookie. Kind of that dude. He's an independent wrestler. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's an independent wrestler.
Okay, I'll have to.
Also, y'all
Okay.
are nasty. I'm pretty sure Ashley's a minor. Y'all need to leave her alone. Y'all are nasty. Every search, every time you look at the little search on all their videos, no
Yeah.
matter which one you watch, it's like Ashley Justice best photos. Ashley Justice this. How old is Ashley Justice? It's like
Oh
leave that girl
gosh.
alone, you perv, you nasty.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, but they are they're so cringe at the same time, but they're like
Right.
the Rizzler's the best. The little brother, the
Yeah.
Rizzler,
Yeah.
he's the goat. He's the goat. He's the goat. So shout out to AJ and Big Justice. I don't know if they'll listen to this podcast. If they do, great. I think it'd be really cool to talk to them on the podcast. I don't know if they do podcasts, but hey, maybe I'll take your advice and we can climb up that hill and reach
Oh
out.
yeah. The worst they can do is say no or leave you on red.
Or they'll be like, "We'll bring the boom
Hey,
to the
there
Young
you
Dad
go.
podcast," and I'll be like, "I don't want you to bring the boom. I don't want that ass." Go and ask him to record in a freaking Costco or something.
There you go.
Costco set up a freaking podcast studio for us in like the middle of Costco during the middle of the day and just record an episode. People walking around with chicken bakes and double chocolate chunk chocolate cookies or whatever. So
Have you ever done like an on-site podcast?
I've never done one. I've
Okay.
never done an on-site in-person one.
Okay.
It was when my dad comes to visit. Never done one. When I visited my brother, we haven't
Yeah.
done one.
Yeah.
Something that'd be super cool. I want to start doing like a live show
Okay.
on Sunday. So
Twitch?
that's something Hmm?
Would it be Twitch or something like that? Or
No, I'm thinking about doing like a live on like YouTube Rumble.
okay. Okay. Yeah.
So just like for an hour or so on like Sundays just to see something that's included in my Patreon actually is for patrons who sign up and are of the I want to say the $2 a month tier. I have two tiers, $1 and $2.
Okay.
Um Super cheap, what a deal, right?
Yeah.
Less than you can get a soda from the gas station for same price.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, that's all you're sacrificing. But they could actually, if they sign up, what I would do is I would send them the invite to this recording. Say, hey, these are the recording times for the week. Here's
Hmm.
your link, and then they could join these recordings as an audience member. So they could
Oh,
potentially
cool.
see them live as they happen, which is a cool perk. But yeah, so I love how your podcast started and how it evolved, and
Yeah.
it's fun. It's fun to see our podcast evolve, right? To
Right.
see how they turn into what they are today. They
Yeah.
change over time, right? Like I
Yeah.
never thought when I started this podcast, I thought I was going to talk about sports. I thought I was always going to be a sports because that was my very first podcast, Ball Boy Talk, an unhinged sports podcast. You can still find it out there. It's fine. You can go listen to it. I tried rebooting it last year, and this took over. Young Dad Podcast had more of my attention and whatnot. I tried
Yeah.
covering like Dynasty Fantasy Basketball and doing some stuff over there, which was fun, but it just didn't work. It just wasn't for me kind of thing. Like I love
Right.
sports. I do love sports. But talking and podcasting about sports, I found that just like I don't have the bandwidth for it, right?
Gotcha.
These kind of conversations are more of like what I love to do. Having
Yeah.
conversations with like other podcasters, with
Yeah.
random people, way more fun than I do. I like talking about sports. Even if I'm
Yeah.
playing sport, even though I get some pretty freaking wild takes. Um, but yeah, I always thought I was gonna be that, and then I dipped into this. Then it was fatherhood. Now it's three different kind of niches on one feed, and
Yeah.
so it's like really cool to see how we can evolve and how we can change our shows to be exactly what we want them to be because we are in control of our shows.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like you said, the show changing over all the years, it's funny because like I said, I started out, I was about 80% wrestling, you know, and then I think it was 2023, I went to Northwest Arkansas Comic Con. It's one that
Mm-hmm.
they put in Rogers, Arkansas. And I went to that and I met all these different really cool people and all that. And do you watch My Hero Academia?
I've
You don't?
never been into anime. I've
Okay.
never been into anime.
Well, there was one of the voice actors for this anime there, and he's pretty
Okay.
well known. He's done many other ones where he was the lead, and I was wearing a shirt kind of like the one I got right now on for my podcast, and we started talking about it.
He just plugged his own merch on the video. Look at that. So subtle. I caught it. I caught it. Don't worry. I caught that. Got that right away. That's a sweet shirt though. I like the color. I like the design. Very cool. Very fun.
My wife made it. She actually makes my
Oh,
merch for me, so yeah,
dude, your wife is a freaking legend here. What a support.
she's freaking awesome. Yeah, she makes me stickers and all kinds of other stuff. So I
Shout
mean,
out to Jerry. Does she have a cricket?
she does have a Cricut. Yeah, she has the Maker 3, I think it is.
What would be sick is if she went on TikTok, if she went live on TikTok while she's making this stuff. Because there's an
Yeah,
audience. Like my wife does this. She sits and she watches like these creators who just sit and make like cups and random shit
yeah,
like sensies and things like that. Like they make all these things
yeah,
and they just go live while they're doing it and then just talk and engage with their audience while they're doing it. And they
right.
have thousands and thousands of followers and 3,000 people in this live stream just watching them and talking to them kind of thing about like their cups and they can like customize their orders while on the feed and things like that.
Yeah,
um
that's cool.
I'm like, hey, that's genius, but I just thought about that because I have to watch those feeds more often than I want. um and I also use, I'm like, hey, I'll go on TikTok because I follow the same people as she does, so then I kind of use it too. I'm like, hey, I see that so and so's on.
Right.
Are you watching now? So and so's on. She goes, no, and then she starts watching. I'm like, I'm gonna go play video games. Um,
There you
so
go.
so
Distraction.
distraction, exactly. Then she catches on. She's like, did you really just have me watch that so you could be out here? I'm like, no,
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 that is
uh,
not what happened.
not at all, not at all. Uh, okay, so I don't know where we were, where we came from, uh, but how has so with podcasting, we're gonna move off podcasting now. We're gonna talk about the parenting side of it,
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
and dive into that realm. So you became a dad in 2011,
Hmm.
and not to age you or anything. I'm sorry. How has since you became a dad, how has that like changed and like shaped your approach to life, and even the conversations that you've had on your podcast?
Yeah. So I will definitely say that I feel that I was placed on this earth to be a dad. That since I've
Oh,
became a dad, I completely feel that way. That that's why I'm here. And so I was I was kind of flighty, and everything, and uh, kind of wanted to do my own thing. And then I had a son, and it was like almost like I felt this sense of responsibility that I had to take on myself. And I feel that I matured a lot as soon as I found out that I was going to be a dad, because this is so. Give a little backstory with me. I had working at this place for a long time, and I was one of those. I would use my vacation time as soon as I got it. I would just use it all. And then
oh,
whenever I found out I was going to have a son, they actually told me, they're like, "Wow, your attendance has improved." And it was because it was like and I didn't even realize that I was doing it,
Hmm.
but it was, um, all of a sudden it was like, I have to be there because I have this son that I have to support, and I have a wife that I have to support.
Hmm.
And not to say that I didn't feel like I needed to support my family before that, but it was just like this switch that just clicked,
Hmm.
turned on whenever I started becoming a dad. And so, and then I just love to be able to, hang out with my kids and, be there with them and be able to give them the advice that they need. So yeah, it has changed even my personality, I would say, in certain ways. And I forgot the other half of the question that you asked me.
You're fine. I was just asking how it's like shaped your approach to life,
Yeah,
and has it impacted how you go about conversations on the podcast?
it has. Yeah. Cause, obviously it even impacted the name of my podcast, because, I made sure to put in there that I am a dad. And, when I first started, it was a nerdy dad podcast, and
Nerd.
yeah, exactly. And so it definitely shaped the way that I even talk about certain questions because there's been, I had a wrestler, I think she was about 19. She just started on the show a few months ago. And the more I talked to her, the more she reminded me of my daughter. And so, I'm starting to even see just the world in general from a dad's point of view, I guess you could say. And it's crazy because, that's not always been me, and it is now.
Mhm.
It's who I am, and I am happy to be this way.
That's cool. Yeah, you bring up wrestling, and it makes me remember a conversation that I had with his name's Damon,
Okay.
and he was on episode 172. I want to say so. My very last episode of September, him and I had a conversation, and he's a former WWE wrestler. He had like one very small moment in the sun, but he trained at like the facility when like John Cena, Randy Orton, and some of those really big names
Okay.
were like training and getting up and going and stuff. And he made a couple appearances on the shows and whatnot. Had
Yeah.
conversations with Vince. I'm sure you've watched the Vince McMahon documentary
Yeah.
on Netflix. I've watched parts of it. I haven't watched the whole thing yet. Uh, I really want to watch the whole thing because I've just heard it's like crazy. But that dude is crazy.
Yeah.
That dude is
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
I've listened to other conversations with him to where he like sleep before he retired. I don't know how much of a hand he has in things now, but before when he was running everything, he slept for like 2-3 hours a day. As soon as he
Right.
got up, he's on the phone, scripting things like that. He would fly and talk to the writers, and if he didn't like it, he would just can the writers on the spot, and then
Yeah.
bring a new writer in within like 2 hours. He would have a new writer ready and
Yeah.
there and whatnot, and he would just flip flopping people, and he would let them write the story. But if he didn't like the story, he would make them rewrite the story, and then if he still didn't like it, then he would just go with whatever he wanted to, kind of thing. He's freaking nuts, but what a great you have to be that crazy to run that big of a business
Yeah.
and to be that successful with multiple shows,
Yeah.
multiple pay-per-view events,
Right.
be making hundreds of millions of dollars per year and just getting these absolute superstars on
Yeah.
and developing that talent, developing these stories, like just a freaking mastermind. So I think Vince McMahon is like the best example of someone who's a lunatic, but also an amazing businessman
Yeah.
and just an uber success because we all know WWE. We all know
Yep.
that has Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, and
Yep.
we know like even though I don't follow it anymore, like I still know like oh this is huge. Like if I wanted to tune in,
It's pop culture.
like yeah, but I can
Yeah.
tune in anytime. I could tune in Monday night on Raw, and I would be able to pick up on the storylines that are going on.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the coolest thing about it. And I think that's, one of the superpowers of the WWE universe is that you can tune in whenever, at any time and point, and pick
Yeah.
up on what the biggest plot lines are because they do such a good job of explaining them and whatnot. So
Right.
I think that's really cool. Definitely unrelated to parenting in every way, but
Well, if you're trying to get your kids into wrestling too, which my
right,
kids like to watch it with me.
that's cool. No, I've been getting my daughters into football. Uh,
Okay.
Not so much my older daughter who's 7, she doesn't really like it, but my younger one who's 4
Hmm.
loves to come over on Sundays when I'm watching Red Zone and just like sit on the couch with me. Even though she's on her
Yeah.
tablet, um, she goes, "The Seahawks playing?" She goes, "The Seahawks?" And then my daughter, she's all Taylor Swift out. She's like, "Go Chiefs!" I'm like, "I will disown you."
um,
I'm like, "I will disown you."
let's see. You see that
I was like, "Be
stadium right up
careful,
there? Do
careful."
you
Remember what
see?
happened last time?
You see that stadium right there?
I cuts off.
Do you see it now?
Is that Arrowhead?
That is Arrowhead Stadium.
You bum.
I was born in Kansas
You.
City.
Okay, that's fair, but she wasn't. She was born in Idaho, so technically she should be a Seahawks fan anyway, because most people in Idaho are Seahawks fans.
Yeah.
The closest in proximity, and so yeah, she goes like, "Go Chiefs," and I'm like, "I will disown you." Like, go back to your room. I don't. Go do whatever. Go
You're grounded.
leave my peace. This is my peace zone right here. Red zone is my peace zone. So, but I think that just comes down to respect and communication,
Yeah.
which are two very big, things in parenting. And I actually got into it on Threads. I don't really engage on Threads. Threads has definitely fallen off in
Yeah.
recent, last couple months. It was great at
Yeah.
launch. The first year or so was really cool. I grew to 1,500, and then it just then they introduced the analytics, and ever since they introduced the analytics, I started here, and it just started going
Exactly.
kind of thing. I'm like,
Yep.
what the heck? Why would you introduce this just to see how I'm like going down?
Yeah.
So then I just stopped using it. I'm like, well, obviously my audience isn't here, kind of thing. So, but I saw this post on there. Sometimes I'll just log on just to see and post and whatnot. I'll still post on there. And I don't think it does. I don't think it converts anything for me. I literally think I have 1 to 2 conversions a month that actually
Yeah.
turn into podcast listeners from there, and that's
Yeah.
terrible. So she posted this lady posted. I won't say she's like a parenting expert, and she posted the way that someone treats their kids tells me everything I need to know about them as a person. And I'm like, okay, hold on, hold on. What about the bad days? What if you encounter myself on a bad day, and maybe I was a little bit more snappy at my kids because maybe I'm super tired, maybe I didn't sleep well, maybe I'm hungry, maybe I'm stressed, kind of things like that. And I'm just a little bit more snappy and a little bit more on edge. Maybe I'm not coping that well. And I'm just
Right.
a little bit more snappy and yelly at them, which happens. It does happen. It happens to all of us. I don't think there's one single parent that can say that they're not that way sometimes. And so you're going to judge my entire character, my entire person by this one, maybe brief 30-second interaction, and you're not going
Hmm.
to interact with me. But I could be like the
Right.
best fucking person, which, I'm pretty fucking cool. But you're going to judge that whole thing. You're going to judge a whole book by the cover here when you don't know the story at all, kind of
Right.
thing. You don't know what I'm going through, kind of thing. And so, but at the same time, she's like, well, someone who, does do that obviously doesn't have control of their emotions and things like that, and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, Miss Perfect, kind of thing. Like, if you're to judge me on like my worst day, then, I think you have more issues than I do, kind of thing.
Right. Right.
So, but respect and communication are really important in
Yeah.
parenting, right?
Yeah.
They're important to you. They're important to me.
Yeah.
So how do you encourage respect, especially with teenagers? Like, you have 2 teenagers. Like, bless your soul, man. Like,
Yeah.
Godspeed, brother. Holy water.
They're
So how do you
mean.
encourage? They're mean. They're mean. They're so
Exactly.
just crying all the time. They just like look at you. You're like, what did I do now? So I hope people are watching the video of this, because this video is immaculate so far. It's even better when you're watching it. So, but so even though they're really mean,
Yeah.
how do you encourage them to try to be respectful and have respectful communication at home or
Well,
with others and in places and all the things?
so I've actually been really lucky when it comes to my kids. I say that they're mean, just jokingly. I mean, they can be. That's just kids being
Not a
kids,
joke. Not a joke.
But
Kids are really mean. Kids are
yeah,
so
they are.
freaking mean. I work with kids all day long in my 9 to
Yeah.
5, and they're assholes.
Yeah, I totally get that. And but I've been very lucky with my kids, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to respect and things like that. They know when to play and they know when to be respectful, especially when it comes to school. I take pride in the fact that when we go and meet their teachers, they tell me that they're some of the most respectful kids that they've ever had,
Well,
and I think it comes back to, you got to teach them from a young age, those things, teach them respect from the get-go. That way, when they are older and stuff, it's there with them. If you wait until it's a problem, then you've waited too long. And so you need to kind of try to start that out from the beginning.
yeah, you have to, right?
Yeah.
That's for every conversation too. You have to, you know, especially where you are compared to like where I am.
Yeah.
You have to start, if you haven't already. Maybe you have, but got to start having all the conversations about, sex and,
Yep.
relationships
Yep.
and things like that. You have to start having the conversation. And
Exactly.
yes, they're uncomfortable conversations, like especially dad to daughter.
Very.
Father to son is a little bit better, but mother to son is probably a little bit more uncomfortable too.
Yep. Yep.
But he's probably going to her for some things that he's not going to you, and vice
Right.
versa. Your daughter's probably going to go to you for some things and going to you for some things versus going to mom, right?
Yep. Exactly.
And I think that's a really cool benefit of your guys' dynamic is that
Yeah.
they have the non-biological parent, they have the step parent there that they're like really close with, but they know it's like, okay, I'm
Right.
gonna get a different perspective kind of thing, because like,
Yeah.
you're probably gonna be a little bit more chill about it
Yeah.
kind of thing, but
Yeah.
you have to have conversations about drugs and
Yep.
sex and responsibility and peer pressure and bullying and all these things, and you know I have to start having those conversations too with my older kid, um, even though she's 7, but we do have to have these conversations,
Right.
right? We have to,
Right.
I have to teach them now, be like, hey, you know, drugs are bad. You know,
Okay.
someone tries to pressure you to touch your different things,
Yeah.
don't let them touch you, or
Right.
respect your personal space. If someone wants to give you a hug, make sure that you're okay with it. If you're not okay with it,
Yep.
tell them to stop. If you want them to stop and they're not stopping, then go and tell an adult kind of thing, and go and
Yep.
have these conversations, right? And then,
Yep.
if every household has different values, but we have conversations on gender,
Yeah.
age appropriate conversations for a 7-year-old on gender, things like that. Because
Hmm.
she goes to school, she sees, you
Right.
know, kids with two moms, kids with two dads,
Yep.
different dynamics, things like that kind of thing. So it's important for us to have this conversation so that I can
Yep.
instill our family values onto her so that she knows, like, okay, well, maybe, as a family, we have our own views on that, but that
Yeah.
doesn't excuse to treat those kids any different kind of thing. Like, we still need
Exactly.
to be respectful, we still need to be tolerable, we still need to treat them the same because it doesn't make them any different kind of
Right.
thing.
Yep.
It makes them no different. So we have to be, teach them how to have tolerance, teach them how to have
Yep.
empathy, teach them how to,
Yeah.
be understanding and stuff, because it's really, really important to teach those things and have those conversations that go that way.
Right. Right. I completely agree with that. I'm very much one of those people, as long as it's not harming me, then you do whatever you want. And I've kind of taught my kids
Mm-hmm.
that as long as is it directly hurting you? Well,
Yep.
no. Well, then let people be,
Mind your
don't
business.
treat them any
Mind your
different, treat them like a normal human being, the way you would want to be treated. If,
Exactly.
somebody's, because I mean, maybe there's something about you that somebody might find weird. You would hope that they would
Oh,
treat you with the
plenty,
same
plenty,
respect.
plenty of things.
Yeah, and that's I kind of you got to teach your kids stuff like that because they're not going to learn it anywhere else because at school what they're going to learn is how to be mean to everybody. Because kids, there was a saying I heard a long time ago. The thing is when it comes to kids, you don't have to teach them to be bad. They do that all on their own. Because they're just going to do what they want to do. But you have to
Mm-hmm.
teach them the values and stuff that they need to have to treat people the right way. Because
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't always come first thing for everybody. So make sure that you're teaching them at a young age, like I said before.
100%. You have to like model that. You have to show them. You have to,
Yeah.
have those conversations with them, kind of thing.
Right.
If they see you being treated poorly, they're gonna look at how you respond, kind of
Right.
thing, right? Or they're
Yep.
gonna look at how you treat people. If they
Yep.
see you, like if my daughters see me randomly when we go to, I don't know, something a couple times over the summer. I haven't done it in a while. I should probably do it again. It's been a minute, but buying a homeless man food, just giving it to him, just because.
Yeah. Yeah.
That instills in them, oh, it's okay to be just giving, just because,
Yep.
and without an agenda, without expecting anything back, and that these people aren't scary, right?
Right. Right.
To little girls, it might be scary kind of thing, but
Yeah.
um, we have to teach them how to be kind. We have to teach them how to do these things. We have to teach them how to be nice, to be respectful, to do things for others, and kind of thing. Like me and my daughter, a few weeks ago, my oldest one, the youngest one helped too, but my daughter wanted to make slime for her friend.
Yeah.
And so we made like 4 different bags of slime for
Yeah.
her friends together,
That's
kind of
cool.
thing. And it's like, that was very giving. But in that mix, one of her friends said, well, if it's not this kind of color with this kind of glitter, then I don't want it at all. I'm like, I'm like, does
Yeah.
that sound like a very good friend? She's like,
Mm-mm.
well, but she's my friend. I'm like, yeah, but friends aren't that demanding. Friends are
Right.
grateful.
Right.
Friends are grateful that you're making them it at all and you're taking your time to make them something special.
Yeah.
Then the next day she gives it to her. She ended up loving it, kind of thing. And I'm like, that's good. kind of thing. Because if she
Yeah.
wasn't,
Yeah.
then do you think you should have been friends with her still if she didn't react that way? She goes, no, probably not. Um, I'm like, So last thing I want to hit here is when it comes to like teaching our children respect and treating them with respect and communicating with them respectfully, even when they're really mean. What, especially with having teenagers, how
Uh-huh.
impactful is it for you to explain the why behind things?
So much, when it comes to anything, that's one thing that I have always had a problem with is when a parent tells a kid something and they don't explain why, and they just say because I said so or something like that. I don't like that way of doing it. I want to give them a response, a reason why, What was that?
I'm glitching out over here. Go
Oh,
ahead.
it's like
Sorry.
fire.
I was trying to set up a transition for like here soon, and
Okay.
I clicked it, and my mouse is like really weird. Like if I click it too many times, it'll like double click things and then like triple click
Yeah.
things, and I'll
Okay.
go to open one tab and it'll open three tabs, and then if I close one tab, then it closes three tabs, and it's really
Oh,
annoying. So I didn't mean
okay.
to do that. So I'm not
It's
sure if the
okay.
listeners going to hear. You may have only heard that, but I have the
Okay.
volume on the slider turned all the way down, so we'll see.
Okay.
Anyways, fireball, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, it was like whoosh. And I was like, oh, okay. I thought I said something. He's like, no, I don't agree with it. Let's fireball him.
No, no, I love what you were saying. Okay, so back to what we were talking about. So explaining the why behind the rules.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it is important to tell your kids that, because how are they supposed to? I know even when it comes to I'm a trainer at my job and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and the one thing that I've learned is people do a better job when they know why they're doing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way with your kids. Your kids are more likely going to follow these rules if you give them a reason why you're giving them these rules instead of just saying, because I said so. In that case, they're going to be like, oh, well, I don't know why I'm supposed to do this. So I'm going to find a way around it so I can still try to kind of do this. But if they know, oh, well, this is for my safety, then they're more likely going to be like, okay, I understand and I don't want to get hurt either. So I'm going to follow this, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel that it is important to make sure and tell your kids, give them a reason. They're humans and they can process things in their brains. Sometimes not like an adult, but you can put it to their level to where they will understand it.
Yeah, and I think that's important. Being able to talk to them, not
Yes.
down to them, not talk to
Yes.
up to them. I think it's better to talk up to them
Yes.
and like maybe talk to them a little bit more mature. Like even if they're 7 or if they're teenagers, talk to them like they're just an adult. You know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they can process information at a very high level.
Exactly.
They can
Yeah.
understand these concepts. Like our kids aren't dumb. We don't give them enough credit. We don't give them the opportunity to
Right.
be able to process this because we talk down to them.
Yeah.
We try to talk to a 7-year-old like she's a 4-year-old and a 4-year-old like she's a baby kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
In my case, sometimes that happens, and I'm like, hold on, I have a 7-year-old. Maybe I need to talk to her like she's a 10-year-old, right? And this 4-year-old, maybe I need to talk to her like she's a 7-year-old kind of thing because they're
Yeah.
really smart and they can
Yeah.
understand things, because their brains work very differently than ours. They're rapidly growing,
Yeah.
and so with them rapidly growing, if we're talking down to them, that growth is going to be like, okay, well, this
It's
is
stunted.
appropriate for me kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if we're talking up to them
Yeah.
at where they're at right now, they absorb that, and then that just kind of helps them grow more, I think. So.
Right. Right. Funny story when it comes to my son, I would use bigger words talking to him to see if he would catch on. And he did. And when we would get in the car, instead of saying, man, it's hot in this car, he would say it's sweltering in this car. And, and it's like, it's the first time anybody would hear him say that. Like, how does he know what that word even means? And it's because you talk to them. You don't have to baby talk to them. You can talk to them in a normal voice and a normal way
Mm-hmm.
of speaking and they'll catch on because kids are a sponge. They absorb everything that you say.
Yeah, a little too much sometimes. My 4-year-old, she's very much like me personality wise,
Mm-hmm.
and I use a lot of superlatives day to
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And I don't just throw them out. I use them as sentence enhancers,
Yeah.
one may say.
Not the
And
SpongeBob kind, though, right?
no,
SpongeBob sentence enhancers.
kind of.
Yes.
But she also is, from time to time, she knows she's not supposed to, but when she does, She times it. She's really smart about it. So I'm like, how often is this little 4-year-old just thinking and wanting to cuss? And because she's always ready for it. She's always ready for it.
Yeah.
So
You
just
got it locked and loaded, ready to go.
always, I'm like, okay, are cuss words just going around in her little mind all day? And like, I just worry, like, is she at school just cussing the other kids out when she's just there at preschool?
They probably are in like a circle just over there, like, nerds.
Honestly, well, honestly, like I was at an elementary school like a few weeks ago. I was doing some observations of one of my kids,
Yeah.
and I'm just like walking and watching kind of thing, and I'd hear these little boys run by just yelling out, "You're gay!" to the top of their lungs across the playground. I'm
Yeah.
like, I didn't know kids were still doing this. Like that's what I
Yeah.
used to do. We used to do back in the day. Back when
Exactly.
it wasn't offensive as much.
Yeah.
So, but I digress there. Um, any thoughts
Different
throughout
times,
this one?
man. Different times.
Different time.
Yeah.
So before we fireball this one, are you anything else we want to add in here to this chunk of the conversation? You ready to have some fun questions here?
Let's get in it, man. Let's do some fun questions. There's the
Fireball.
fireball. Yeah,
I
fireball.
didn't hear the freaking fireball. Then
I
fireball
heard it.
me. Okay, well hopefully listeners heard it again.
Oh,
First one,
there we go.
dude, that was even better. If you could have any celebrity dad as a guest on your podcast, who would it be, and what's something you would want to talk about with them?
Okay. Have you ever watched Smallville? No? Okay. Well, so John
That's okay.
Snyder,
I don't have. Oh, I know who John Snyder is.
yeah. So he played Clark Kent's dad on Smallville. I would love to have him on the show to talk because he's also a country music singer. My dad, I grew up around lots of old country music and stuff like that, and so I would love to have him on the show as a celebrity dad because that's what he was known for on TV. Besides being, one of the Duke brothers as well, but he was also later known as being that other celebrity dads. Let me think. There's a lot of them. There really is.
Yeah.
James Marsters, I think, would be a cool one. He's plays Spike on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I think he would be cool to talk to because he has a really interesting story. Before he became a dad, he raised his niece to make sure that she had a better life and better education and all these things. And he raised her as his own daughter. And so that story has always really stuck out to me, taking on somebody that he didn't have to, and being a dad to that child as well. So I think that'd be a really cool conversation to have.
That would be. I agree.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I would pick The Rock.
Okay.
I think I would go The Rock because The Rock's just cool.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, even though I think it'd be great, him and his wife don't want to have any kids, but maybe if they change their mind and they do, I think John Cena would be a crazy cool conversation.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Him and his wife has stated like we're not planning to have any kids. We don't want to,
Right.
kind of thing. I don't want to have kids. I never have wanted to have kids, kind of thing.
Yeah.
She knows that. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I think even though that would be a cool conversation, so
Yeah. Well, I think that's the reason why him and Nikki Bella ended up splitting up was because she wanted kids and he didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he'd be cool. He would just be a cool conversation to have in
it
general.
would be a cool conversation. Period.
Yeah.
Freaking childhood icon there.
Yeah.
To me. So, let's see. I don't think I have anyone. I can think of plenty of people in the sports world that would be really cool to talk to and have a conversation with. But that's just sports. I started to think of celebrities or sports as celebrities. Like
Yeah.
they're star athletes, they're superstar athletes kind of thing.
Right. Right.
Patrick Mahomes would be cool.
He would be cool. Yeah. Heck yeah.
So
Yeah. See,
I don't know if I can.
you got it. There's a
I don't know
chief.
if I can listen to Kermit. I don't know if I can listen to Kermit all day. Kind of thing. Well, we're just out here. We're just out here making Super Bowls, and we're out here, running trick plays, and Travis, man, that Travis Kelce, he's just so good. Travis Kelce's so good. I mean, I don't throw him the ball, and all my receivers, they either get injured or arrested. I have a great center. I love touching his butt. He's just so great. He's just so good. Creed, he's so good, man. Just a player. And then Coach Reed, get that man hamburger, kind of thing.
He looks like a trucker. Yeah. Reed, he does. He looks like a trucker.
He's such a good coach, though. He's so
He
good.
is.
And I think he's the oldest coach in the NFL now after Pete and Belichick got fired.
Okay.
So obviously he's doing something right, but he also does have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. That's coaching, so
Yeah.
it makes sense why he's still kicking. So
yeah.
What is your go-to dad joke? that never fail to get a reaction from your kid?
Well, I always tell them a different one, but the funny one for me is what's brown and sticky? A stick.
Mine is whenever my kids say I'm hungry or I'm tired, I go, "Hi, hungry.
Yeah,
Hi, tired,"
I do that
and
one.
they literally just storm off after it every time. It gets such a big reaction. My 7-year-old says, "Dad, stop! I'm just telling you that I'm hungry or I'm tired." I'm like, "Are you sure you're not? Are you sure? I thought that was your new name. I don't know. I thought you changed your name today."
That's funny.
She goes, "How would I have changed my name? I was at school all day." Um,
Changed it at
and
school.
I'm like, maybe they just changed it at school. I don't know. We live in Washington. I don't know what happens at school anymore, like laws and stuff. Just to drop that in, if your podcast was to have like a theme song, what would it be?
Well, funny you mentioned that. There is a rapper by the name of DQ who created a theme song for my show. So at the end of every one of my episodes, you hear that theme song that plays. So I already have one created.
I love that, man. If I was able to like rip like intellectual like properties from it, I would definitely put the Office theme song
There you go. Yeah,
onto every podcast episode. I don't know why, it just feels like it would fit.
yeah,
I
yeah.
like to think of myself as like the Michael Scott of like the dad podcasting world kind of thing. Uh,
We had somebody
that's how
dressing up at
my
work the other day for they were trying to get their Halloween costume ready, and he put on a bandana. I was like, "Oh, we got Prison Mike here today." Yeah.
my old supervisor, she was wearing like a black bandana one day too, and I'm like, "Bruh, you look like Prison Mike." Uh, she was like, "I do, huh?" I'm like, "Yeah." Uh, oh, that's what I should be for Halloween. I should be Prison Mike,
Prison Mike.
even though it's cold. It'd be
Is
cold.
it cold up there?
Almost. I mean, I want to say that. So I'm in Eastern Washington,
Okay.
and so we get a little bit. We get all 4 seasons here. I looked up
Uh-huh.
maps. I went to look up the weather. Um, Today we're gonna get up to a high of 79,
Oh,
and
okay.
so it's a little bit warmer today. Last few days it was like 60s and whatnot. It looks like all this week we're gonna be 60s. Yeah, literally 60s for the next like 10 days. So,
Nice, nice. I think we got the 80s
which is
all
nice.
week. So,
Nice. I want that. Last fun question here, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
all right.
Describe your perfect dad day. What does it look like, start to finish?
For me, this is going to be
Mm-hmm.
different and everything. Okay, so a perfect dad day for me. Probably get everything ready. I like to smoke meat. Probably starting off the day
I
with
was
getting my
wondering what you were going to say. You like to smoke what, Jared?
yeah, like a brisket or some
Oh,
rack of ribs. Let's do some ribs. I love smoking rib,
hey, do
and
both. It's your day. Do both.
it's true. It's true. So I do that. Have some music playing most of the day, and it will range from rock, country to rap. You name it, I'm gonna listen to it.
Love it.
Maybe do some stuff. I enjoy doing what I'm doing right now.
Same.
Talking to people. Doing a podcast, things like that. I collect toys. So like I've got like my Funkos and stuff.
Nice.
So it's I don't know if you can see what it is. It's the Rita Repulsa. I just
Okay.
got that signed like last weekend and everything.
Very cool.
But like I collect all kinds of toys and stuff. So probably out here looking at that, and then maybe then watching the pay-per-view for wrestling with my kids and eating
Very
the
cool.
ribs that I made.
Let's go.
So
That's a good day right there. That's
yeah,
a
it
good
is.
day. All right, let's see if we can fireball this one more time. So let's see what happens.
There it goes.
That was something.
That was a big
Um,
rumble.
yes. We gotta drum roll it. I was doing a podcast the other day, and she wanted to like insert a drum roll effect. I'm like, hold on, I got a button for that. Oh, I missed that. She's not watching dad jokes, and I'm like, I got a drum roll. She's like, okay. She's like, I'll wait, and then I played it, and then I was like, yeah, what you were saying, kind of thing. So, buttons are fun. Buttons are fun. It's fun when you remember that you have them and you can use them.
Yeah.
I used to use them probably way too much, but they're fun to use.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I've got
so
one of those little things like you've got, and
uh-huh.
it has Little John going, "What?"
I need that sound effect. No, so on my audio interface, it doesn't actually do any like sounds because I don't have anything like programmed to them yet.
Yeah.
Mostly because I don't know where the instructions are and I don't know how to program them. So that's okay.
That's okay.
I have them right here on the screen and I can hit them. So, without further ado, let's jump into that last question here. Boom. What advice would you offer to a young dad who's probably age like 18 to 22, so super young? I became a dad at 22, so I was super young.
Okay.
Who's just barely starting out on his fatherhood journey. So, piece or two advice that you would offer him.
Okay. So I was 23 when I became a dad for the first time.
Cheers.
And so, I know how that age is. And the best thing I can tell you is be patient. Not everything's going to happen exactly the way you want it to. It's a learning curve. You're not going to be perfect at it to begin with, but be
Mm-hmm.
patient, not only with your kid or your partner, but be patient with yourself too. Give yourself that little bit of space to know that, this is your first time doing this and it's okay, but be patient with yourself because it's not all going to come right away. It's something that you learn over time.
I love that, man. I couldn't have said it better myself. And if I tried, I wouldn't have done as well. Um, So let's go ahead and get out of here. We
All
can
right.
bring this little beat back real quick. This beat is from the Podbeat app. It's an EDM infinity beat from the Podbeat app. You can turn any podcast or audiobook into a music with the Podbeat app. You can download it from your App Store, Google Play Store, and start using Podbeat and start enhancing all your podcasting experience into a music experience. So, with that, Jared, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks for sharing your insights. Thanks for sharing stories, some laughs. I will link that first episode in the description of the podcast here for everyone. I probably won't. I'll probably be like, man, there's something I'm supposed to link, and then I'll forget to link it. So, that's okay. We'll see what happens. But it's been a absolute blast having you on. We did it. We got it. We did it.
We did
We
it.
conquered.
Yes.
We came. We saw. We conquered. Hashtag Christopher Columbus. So it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. So for our
Yeah.
listeners who want to check out your podcast or connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So you can either you can go to any social media and you can look up If You Give a Dad a Podcast. I also have a link tree, which is I forgot how to say it, the link tree slash
Yeah.
Give a Dad a Podcast. Maybe you can put that in your show notes there and everything. But I'm
Yes, I could
on,
put that versus the first episode of your show.
yeah, and I am on all different podcasting platforms. If you listen to iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, any of those places that you listen to podcasts, even Audible, I'm on there too. So just look me up at any of those spots.
Love it, man. Well, again, thank you for tuning in today with me. Thanks for being here with me. I appreciate you joining me on the show today. To listeners, make sure you go and do all the things you can to support both podcasts. If you give it out a podcast and the Young Dad podcast here, by going, liking, reviewing, leave 5 stars, leave comments, engage, interact, follow on social media, do all the things that you can do. Subscribe, like, follow, subscribe, leave 5 stars, all the things. You know what to do. You hear it on every podcast, so go and do it. Stop waiting and stop saying, "Oh, I'll do it next time I listen." Just go and do it. But until next time, stay safe. Cherish those moments with your kids and keep being the amazing dad that you are.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Of course.